podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Alrighty, I'm with Dan Harris this week. You'll probably all know him, but Dan, introduce yourself.
I think you just introduced me. Hi, I'm Daniel. I appear to be stepping into Paul's football shoes, so please bear with me.
Yeah, no worries. I think he listens, so I subtweet him in audio form most weekends. I'll get bored of doing that for a while.
We exchanged a nice hug at Leicester once in the press box.
Nice.
We had that kind of "you're that guy off the internet" moment.
Yes, yes. It's funny, Wayne Barson, who's been on a few times, I've known him for like 15 years or so. I've never met him. It's one of those internet friends. So, there you go. That's the internet. Anyway, this weekend, what the hell do we say about this one? So, I almost convinced myself after 45 minutes that United might be good again, might be coming out of the bump. And, I mean, not that they were that good in that first 45 or so, but I almost convinced myself that it might be getting there. So what were your thoughts on the game overall? And then we can go through some of the details.
It was an improvement. And I tweeted at half time, like, it's weird to watch that and be, that was much better, which just tells us how rubbish it's been subsequently. And I guess even the way that it went at the end, I think that the selection of Elanga made me feel at least like there might be some consequences for bad behaviour. And I mean, I don't think he played that well, but he looked lively. And it's because the problem is that what's been going on for the last year or two is that they play away for a while and it doesn't work. And it's the same churn of changes that until it goes bad again and then it starts all over again. So it's just like some level of novelty.
Yeah, well, some level of accountability for performances and stuff off the field as well, I think is needed. And maybe this is a sign that Rangnick will do that. Elanga coming in. I mean, Rashford's performance in the previous week was just as bad as it gets. I'm really reluctant to beat on Rashford because there's enough people on the internet do that.
What he needs to do to play better at football is to stop feeding hungry children. What kind of equation is that? I
know. A few stories came out like that in the midweek that United were asking him to focus less on his activities. Look, footballers, as you know, they have hours and hours and hours to fill, and most of them fill it with nonsense playing PlayStation or doing commercial crap or posting pictures of themselves in their Bentleys on Instagram or whatever. So I'm all good with Rashford feeding hungry kids. I'd like him to play better. I'm hoping Rangnick can find the formula to get it out of him.
The connection is just mind-blowing because you could look at his performances and say, and I don't like to say this really about any players because what it takes to get from where they were to where they are is a lot.
Yeah.
So, but you could look at his performances and say, seems to be on his heels a lot, doesn't seem to be enjoying it. But that's still got nothing to do with the feeding hungry children.
No, that's right.
Those are two things that they're completely unrelated. Even if you thought he wasn't working hard enough in training, even if you thought he decided that he hated football and he wanted to, I don't know, go take a shit on Ragnick's tactics board, still would have nothing to do with the feeding of the hungry children.
Yeah, the internet has some strange theories, doesn't it? And anyway, look, he didn't deserve a place in the side based on his performances, and Elanga came in and, as you said, he did okay. And I think the depth of United squad means that Rangnick can't do that in every position. There's some quality in some parts and some interchangeable stuff. There really isn't in central midfield. There's just like nothing there.
Just the middle of the field.
Yeah, in the end, that's what cost United. So that first bright 45, especially the first 30, when United were actually quite intense and actually pressed, and there seemed to be some kinds of Rangnickness in the team, it felt like maybe this is coming together because Matic as a defensive player is gone, I think, but at least he can give United some kind of semblance of control in midfield. He at least knows how to pass the ball, which is hard to say about McFred, isn't it? But then that just was completely obliterated in the second half. And Jacob Ramsey, who's 12? It's just so much better than anything United have in central midfield. I'm looking at him and last week and going, well, he's a quality player. He's not out of this world, but he's better than what United have got. And it just it's so obvious, isn't it, where the problem lies?
Yeah, I think that when you look at the strikers, at some point you probably have to decide on who it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And try and get some kind of continuity, because that means you keep the ball away from the midfield.
Right.
If you're constantly putting the pressure on up front. And
yeah,
if there was a manager, I mean, I'm sure Rangnick wants the job. I'm sure he thought that I'm going to go there, I'm going to make a massive difference really quickly, and they'll have to employ me. I'll have to employ myself.
He basically said it tongue in cheek, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, he meant that shit. Yeah, I will appoint myself. So if you were at that point, if you've got a manager who's staying and he's looking to the future, then you would think, well, is there that much point playing Cavani that often? Starting Cavani, because he's not often available. He's not available as often as he's available. And he's definitely going in the summer.
Yep.
And if this season's basically away, more or less, save a couple of games in Europe, a couple of cup games, then you might start thinking about doing something a bit different. And also, I mean, that sort of applies to Ronaldo as well.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think massively cost Ole and has massively costing United now, and it relates to the midfield, is what's going on with Sancho.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that hard to defend why he was crap at the beginning, because he basically spent the whole summer not relaxing, but doing almost nothing, staying like semi-match fit because he's training, but not actually staying match fit by playing matches. He then has to have the break subsequently, when all the other players who played for England have a break. Then he gets ill and he's moving and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Ole's inability to integrate him, or the fact that circumstances prevented that from happening, is a problem, because I think one of the reasons maybe that a midfielder wasn't signed or prioritised is that I think they thought that Sancho would help them keep the ball. Because rather than someone like Greenwood, who basically playing on the right at the moment, he gets in possession and he wants to get to goal. He wants to get to goal, wants to have a shot. And his passing's improved, but he's not really looking to participate that much in the play. Whereas I think that Sancho would have been having an extra midfield player and would give a bit more control than there is.
Yes, and he did do that at Dortmund, didn't he? He's a very good player. I think a lot of people thought who don't watch Bundesliga thought he was a winger, and he's really not. He's a player who plays this sort of join the dots football and can keep the ball and knows when to pass and knows when to take on a man. And we don't see much of that, do we?
He's not got a lot of people to bounce off, because the strikers aren't those kinds of strikers. But it feels, if all of a sudden, if in the next game even, whatever, it was Greenwood, Sancho and Elanga with the front three, it won't happen, because dropping Ronaldo at this point politically would be a massive aggravation, but also not necessarily good for the team either, given that ultimately if a chance falls, you want it to fall to him. But if you're looking to make something good in the future, you might be thinking about doing that and trying to groove something.
I do wonder how Greenwood feels about this, because he started the season, didn't he, through the middle, and I suppose that's where we imagine that he'll end up playing. Just the nature of who he is. He's playing wide, taking risks, taking the shot every time at low probability of scoring chances. He was doing that against Villa.
I mean, he played well. He played right yesterday, relatively.
He's bright, yeah. But the future is, unless United are going to sign a striker in the summer, he's going to end up playing more through the middle. I mean, unless we imagine that Ronaldo's going to play there forever, and then United have to change the way they play. They're certainly not going to play Rangnick football. Ronaldo scores goals and doesn't contribute anything else.
The problem is also that the players, like, you can't go from how fit they were probably to how fit you need to be to play Rangnick football. But towards the end, it felt like, I don't think Rangnick helped them by not bringing anyone on, because not there was much to bring on. But if the team are going to sit back, and let's be honest, like they're kind of tired, but it's also a bottle. They're also taking the path of least resistance to try and protect what they've got by sitting deep, rather than protect. Like, you can still defend the goal, mainly look to protect the advantage. But if you're giving the opposition an easy ball into midfield every time, the crowd's going to get up, and you're going to put yourself under pressure. And who backs that team to not fold in that circumstance? No one really. And I don't know how much difference it would have made, but at that point, you should probably have bring on Van der Beek as the only midfield player, or to just an extra body in there.
Well, that's right. I mean, actually, against Villa in the cup game, Van der Beek coming on at 75 minutes helped United gain a little measure of control, and he started off as a sort of false nine, which was kind of weird, but if it's giving United an extra body in midfield, then great. Cavani yesterday, everyone appreciates his movement in an attacking sense, but he didn't actually contribute to the press by the end of the game. And I was watching it thinking, the subs need to come on now at an hour. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen the weekend before either. Probably the change should have been made 10 minutes earlier. And Rangnick's still trying to work it out, isn't he? He went to a different system again this weekend. I think it's probably 4 different systems he's played so far, trying to find an answer to the problems. And it's square peg, round hole every time, basically.
I think that with these players, you can do anything apart from play 4-2-3-1, because you have to get Bruno in the middle of the pitch and able to do what he does. There's a point in saying, well, you play on the right or the left of this affair, because he has to be involved in the play, because if he doesn't create anything, who's gonna?
No one. I mean, for all the drop-off in Bruno's sort of what we feel like his contribution this season and his performance levels, he's still top of every attacking metric. Every single one by miles for United, except for goals.
Right, and there aren't options until you've got, if you had if you signed another 2, you basically would need to sign 2 midfield players. Yeah. You need to sign whatever kind of number 6 it's going to be.
Yep.
Well, and then a number 8. Yeah. And then Bruno could also be a number, you can play 3, and that basically that would be more similar to the way City do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could do that, but until that happens, you have to just let Bruno create and have two other players, and ideally it has to be Fred and McTominay.
For now, yeah, it does have to be, yeah.
It does.
I mean, you need United need someone who will control in midfield and someone who will defend, and it would be good if they could have both, magically time warp Roy Keane back into the side. Sadly, that's not going to happen.
I mean, it's a massive error that Ole made ultimately, and he might not have trusted the board to give him the money. But if he'd have called in Henderson, Beek, Lingard, Dalot, Bailly, Mata, and said, "Listen, you're lovely lads, but you all got to go this summer. Tell your agents to find you a club. I can't. I have to spend the money. If that means you train with the kids and do nothing, then that's how it is."
Yeah.
And then with that money, you could still have bought the players that were bought, and you could have found. You might not have found enough for Declan Rice, but you would have found at least a midfield player that would make this better. Martial or him as well.
Yeah, that's
definitely
right.
him.
They turned down however many millions they might have got for Lingard, just as an example. For what? For him to come on for 10, 15 minutes once every fortnight or something.
That's it. If you don't back your team, if you think you can not include Lingard as often as Ole was not including him, then you don't need him.
Yeah, that's right. Every discussion about United always comes back to the ability to structure and manage the football side of the club.
And that comes back to the owners.
And it comes back to the owners, and they run the football club in a certain way. Ed Woodward was, apart from his passion for vino, his other passion was refusing to sell players because he thought that the asset had some kind of value if they didn't.
I think it's also an ego thing, that his trophies are profit and loss accounts. It's balance sheets, right? And if you buy someone for X, you sell them for Y, and Y is considerably lower than X. You feel that your Willie looks slightly smaller through your trousers on that day.
I can always understand the kind of financial side of Ed Woodward thinking like that as a banker, thinking like he's destroying the value of this asset by not signing them up to a new contract and not selling them for the purchase price, right? But it doesn't actually make any sense from a football side of things to keep assets that are not being utilised. And
because they're side assets. There's another asset.
Exactly. And United don't have a brilliant under-23s or crop of kids at the moment. But there are some that are half decent, right? So you either do what Chelsea do and churn them out for 10, 15 million each time and just trickle into the accounts like that, or you play them and sell your fringe players. And I don't know whether someone like, just as an example, James Garner would have done any good in the Premier League this season. Probably not, seeing his performances for Forest. But better to either sell him or use him than use Van der Beek for 2 minutes a game. I mean, it's becoming a meme for Van der Beek that he comes on in between the 85th and the 88th minute. So
it's like that Chelsea change that Sarri always made. Was it Kovacic for Jorginho or something?
Right,
something
right.
like that. But on Garner, I've been told that physically they don't think he's got it.
Yeah.
That he can play with the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
But they don't think he's going to be quick enough and strong enough to be able to play for United in the Premier League. And that was something I heard a long time ago from people in United.
Right. Yeah.
And I've heard it again.
Yeah. No, I think that's
week.
probably true. Yeah. He's doing okay in the Championship, probably not as good this season as last. And the Championship's not a non-physical league, but it's not at the pace of the Premier League.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, in some ways, the game itself is probably quicker at some point, but it's more to do, I guess, with being able to, if you're to cover enough ground, the speed that you need to cover it, and be able to, rather than can you adapt your game to the speed of the game, like passing probably might be good enough. It's about being able to compete physically in terms of how quickly you can get to the ball and whether you can win the ball and protect the ball when you get to it. And I believe, I'm told that isn't the case, but Hannibal looks like he'll be a United player. And I dare say if he was not with Tunisia at the moment, he'd be on the bench now, at least.
He could be that controlling type player. I mean, he plays a lot at 10 for the under-23s.
I think they tried to make an 8 out of him.
I think that's probably true, and so he's got a bit of an edge to him as well, which is nice.
If you bought a 6 and you had him and Bruno, and he was good quickly, then you're starting to talk about a proper midfield. And the other one is Ethan Laird. A couple of years ago, I made a film about Matt Busby, and spent some time with Jimmy Murphy Jr. And being Jimmy Murphy's son doesn't mean he's got a particular eye for a player necessarily, but he has watched a lot of youth team football over a lot of years. And he said that when he went to watch the youth team play away to Liverpool, the Liverpool coaches were all saying that guy is the best player in this team. And Mason Greenwood was in that team.
Well, his injuries that's held Laird back to date. And he's had a very good first half of the season with Swansea. He's gone to Bournemouth now, which was a little bit of an odd switch. I hope that was to do with development and not money.
Yeah, he's been playing. I mean, I'm guessing, but Bournemouth are challenging for promotion. Presumably he won't have gone. There had been some discussion about how much he's going to play. And also Swansea player back 3, so he's been playing a wing back. Bournemouth player back 4. So if he can get in the team, it'd be quite useful for him. But he's another one. I can't believe that he's particularly that much worse than Dalot.
He's looked great at youth level beyond the injuries. Anyway, long discussion about side players. But, I mean, it's exactly right. United's problem has come from dumb decisions. Lots of money spent. We can't say so many dumb decisions. It's almost like, I think Barney Ronay tweeted, what would it take for United to make one good decision? Anything. And it all comes from the top.
But even then, it's still mad that this time last season, United looked like they were good enough to beat anyone on their day. And we saw it. They beat Liverpool. Admittedly, they didn't have all their best players, but they did beat them. They beat City, and they outplayed City on that day, not for the first time, having done it the season before. They then go and sign Varane, Sancho, and Ronaldo and get worse.
Yeah.
It's spectacular. Like, it makes you think that there's something so strange going on that you can take a team that was likeable on the up. There was a great buzz about them. They played, we can all see what the faults were, that they were going behind in games, which suggests some kind of laxity and weakness and lack of vertebra. And yet they then constantly came back, scored some brilliant goals, like loads and loads of goals, loads of bangers, not always when they most needed them. And there was no crowds, which made it probably easier to sustain. But even so, there was some momentum building. They signed 3 unarguably quality players who filled gaps that they needed them to fill. They needed a centre-back who was better than Lindelof. I haven't had a right winger for years. They needed one of them as well. And at the very least, Ronaldo is an upgrade on Cavani. He's fit more often, and he's better, and he scores more goals.
Yeah.
Now look!
No, it's amazing. The kind of paradox with Rangnick is that we don't have a lot of evidence, really, over the last 15 years that he knows how to build a team as a coach. He wants to. What I've heard from people who watch the Bundesliga a lot is that he perhaps doesn't actually like the pressure when it really starts to pile on, and we'll see. He's been at the club a month or so, and he might get surprised about just how much focus there is on United compared to most Bundesliga teams. And I guess we're hoping that he can find some kind of fixes to all these challenges. If even better scenario is he really does know how to build clubs and he's a better director of football or can help Murtaugh upgrade himself from being a youth team coach or a youth team scout to a proper director of football. And there's someone who can actually instill a vision and stop United making all these ridiculous decisions about purchases, contracts and sales. Then maybe we'll get a team on the pitch. But we were talking before we started recording, my level of cynicism is through the roof. I have no confidence whatsoever. I mean, United have, even in COVID times, United have tons of free cash flow and so much money that can be spent. So much money. Don't even extract money from the value in the stock market to spend it, which they can do right now, right? They're never going to, of course, because it's the piggy bank. But it's like if somehow a benevolent dictator took over United tomorrow, they have the cash to compete with anyone in world football.
Just by spending their own money.
Just by spending their own money. And then if they didn't change the structure underneath that, they'd just still make loads of dumb decisions. So, and it just shows on the pitch.
The thing with Rangnick that bothered me in the first instance, that I thought, it made me wonder about him, was that the best team that he's ever managed was Leipzig. If United were better than Leipzig, that still probably wouldn't be good enough if they're a bit better than Leipzig. And certain managers are good at different things. Like David Moyes is really good at sort of that lower top, upper middle section of the table. Mick McCarthy, if you want to get promoted from the Championship, you hire Mick McCarthy, but you should fire him as soon as you get in the Premier League because he's not good at that. And Rangnick was good at this thing. And I remember them being heartened afterwards because I thought, well, he's also a systems guy. And
yes, very much, yeah.
And you can do that, but then you need time. And it just needs to be the right system. But then in his first press conference, I think he said he was going to try and do what he could with the players that he had, not impose his system. And then we've wasted time with him trying to impose that system. And
given up on it.
Yeah, because it wasn't right. It was just so obviously not right for the players. Because you can't compromise Bruno, like we said. And then you don't want Sancho going from out to in. You want him coming from in to out. And you don't have the fullbacks for it. And you don't have the midfielders for it. And you know that 4-2-3-1 works all right with this team. It was good enough to finish second last season. It was good enough to beat good teams. And just that sort of wasted the opportunity to bounce, probably pissed off the players as well. And I want him to piss the players off, don't get me wrong. But in terms of getting those short-term results, it probably would have helped to have changed a little bit less than he did. And then the constant changes in the games. And now you just never know what team he's going to pick from game to game, what formation it's going to be. And that's not really competition for places. That's a mess.
That's tinkering, and it probably doesn't give the players the sense that he really knows what he's doing. And it doesn't surprise me that there are stories coming out from week to week because people are chatting about him, his systems. Yeah, exactly.
Tuchel, who came in, he dropped Mason Mount in the first game, didn't do that again, really. But he figured out the best way for them to play. Yeah, and then they played that way. And
very quickly with Tuchel. Yeah. Anyway, we didn't talk about yesterday's game much, but it's because it was I don't know whether it wasn't a sickener. It was just kind of inevitable.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't. It was unexpected. It's like, but then that makes it, like sometimes it's like, you're going to go out and you have a skimmerful or whatever. You're going to feel hanging the next day. You still feel hanging the next day.
I don't know whether you were catching any of the cricket.
It was on the over by over just this morning.
There you go. Right. Long story short. I'm not a great sleeper, and I can't help myself. So it's overnight here. It starts it's day-night game, so it starts about 8 o'clock and the action goes overnight. So I can help myself basically checking it every time. And it's one of those ones where there's a little bit of hope, and it's the hope that kills you, etc. and so on. And then the inevitability of the collapse and England losing. But just for a moment, while Wood was on a mad one, I thought maybe England could do it. And I felt a bit like that yesterday with United. I was like, This is good. Bruno's getting the ball. Bruno's not got someone in his zone because he wouldn't have taken those 2 shots if someone else had been in the team. And maybe Rangnick's found the system. Maybe he's getting a tune out of these players. And then, of course, the inevitability of Aston Villa taking over in midfield and United just kind of collapsing, and players running past Matic, who was absolutely dying on his feet by the end of the game.
Yeah, he's an ornament at this stage. The cricket's funny because it gets worse as you get older, because when it's overnight, because obviously you're getting up for a piss more often in the night, which gives you more opportunity to investigate the cricket, to then go to bed for Brent, as they say in Yiddish, irritated, aggravated, because you're waking up more often for it to annoy you.
I have very distinct memories of when I was a kid of listening to Test Match Special and England getting battered by the Aussies. So it feels very much like that 40 years later.
Yeah, there's lots of similarities between United and cricket. You've got execs that care about sponsorship and money more than they care about sport, and it exists to make money rather than makes money because it exists.
Yes.
And you've got them imposing nonsense. You've got players who are struggling to apply themselves, but a lot of talent. And
hey, but you'll get a beautiful new stand at Lord's when they've bought the 2-foot strip of land behind their Compton Edgeridge stands.
Yeah, the suits will pay themselves a skimful.
Anyway, it all started good yesterday, didn't it? I mean, Bruno hitting one in, Martinez letting it roll through his legs.
That was just so good. That was just after his behaviour at Old Trafford as well.
Beautiful.
Like him then getting to have that redemptive moment when he celebrated the goal in the crowd was, oh my God,
It did feel like a little modicum of revenge, didn't it, for the antics at Old Trafford when Martinez got inside his head somewhat. I wonder whether it was Martinez or Ronaldo that had got inside Bruno's head.
But I just felt, like the denial of the revenge by the equaliser. Yeah, I was perturbed by that.
So Bruno scores 6th minute, gets the other one in the 67th, but by that time Villa had already taken over, basically. Villa were in control in that second half, and it just felt inevitable, and I couldn't help, like, the extra sickener was that Coutinho was involved in some way in both of them. I hate him for 2 reasons. One, he's an ex-Liverpool player, obviously, and 2, like, as soon as he came back, all the commentary is about, how good he was at Liverpool. I mean, he's been absolute shite for 4 years. He's been dreadful. And not just on the pitch, off it. And everyone's been questioning his attitude and his belief. And he comes back to the Premier League and he's a god again because all his mates say he is. And he's gone to join Steven bloody Gerrard at Aston Villa. And of course, he's involved in both goals.
I have a confession to make. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Coutinho also is that he was quite good for Liverpool. But he also was a player who, if he didn't belt them in from that position 20 yards out, he didn't actually do that much. And when they flogged him, they spent the money to improve the team with the ridiculous amount of money they somehow got for him. His biggest contribution to Liverpool winning the title was buggering off.
Yeah.
But when United scored the second goal and they brought him on, oh my gosh, so I messaged a mate who was at the game saying, "Go on then, bring Coutinho on now, Stephen." I don't think I called him Stephen. I called him. and then obviously my friend who was at the game didn't see it till afterwards, by which time
he'd already done it.
By which time the worst had happened. It was a head in hands moment, one of many.
He got robbed of the assist for the first one because actually a United player touched it.
First one was the first goal, I thought, apart from like the general sitting back and allowing them to swarm us, was a bit unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because, like the ball going like where it did. But the second goal was extremely negligent from all concerned.
I mean, it's the second one where Matic sort of is jogging back.
He couldn't stop that cross.
He suddenly realises it's too late, right? He hasn't got the legs by that time. So if you actually had someone with legs in there, they'd have stopped the cross.
I think he just needed to extend his leg. I thought felt like he didn't at the point. I'm not certain that any running was necessary. He just needed to extend the leg. And then I can't remember where Lindelof was. I'm not sure if he can either.
He's slightly out of position, Lindelof. I mean, it's like one of those classic goals that United concede. Varane's the one desperately trying to stop Coutinho getting into position, but it's too late by then.
He must be wondering what on earth is going on. But Lindelof I was always suspicious of him because I remember the day that he signed, he gives an interview to saw on the internet, I guess. And they asked him what he thought his best quality was. And he said his composure.
Huh.
And I feel like if I was a defender for United, as I am now, not as a professional footballer, but me, age 42, and with my footballing ability, and I was a centre-back for United, composure would be my best quality. From someone who's actually playing centre-back for United, I want to hear pace,
Being
strength,
able to defend.
dominance.
Yeah.
Defending, maybe. A good one. Yeah, like if you'd asked Nemanja Vidic what his best quality was, or Rio Ferdinand, or Jaap Stam, or Paul McGrath, the answer is not calmness, I think he said. It was not that.
Yeah, no. And any of those players you mentioned would be a massive improvement, obviously, because they were all outstanding defenders. Yeah, Lindelof has no composure. That's the other irony. Every time he's under any kind of physical pressure, he just collapses every single time. Varane, I have a lot of hope for him because obviously he's a high quality player. He's just not been fit at all. And this was part of the reason that Madrid were kind of happy to get rid as well, because of his repeated injuries. And so that's a problem. And then Harry Maguire, who either wasn't quite fit yesterday or Rangnick dropped, not sure which one, has been dreadful this season. And United conceded the kind of goal that they conceded late yesterday with Maguire in the team because he doesn't have the recovery pace and isn't in the right position when, teams get round behind United's fullbacks at any point, concede the same goal over and over again. There was, unfortunately, a kind of sense of inevitability about it yesterday. And it had nothing to get back into it. In fact, Rangnick made changes to try and secure a draw.
They did that. Beak had that little opportunity at the end. And
yes,
I think
nice turn,
Beak,
yeah.
I feel like the problem that the management have with Beak is probably not dissimilar to what I'd heard is so of Ghana. That he can't, physically, he hasn't got it to play midfield.
He hasn't got it, yeah.
But Matic doesn't have it to play midfield either.
And he still gets in the team fairly often.
Well, yeah, he's the first. Yep. If you can't have McFred, then it's him.
Yep.
And I don't see what we're really gaining by doing that. And it's always, you get to a point when you're watching your team be shit that you just would like to see them be shit in a different way at least. I know.
I like that. Yes. Yeah. I mean, Matic should have fucked off to Italy 2 years ago, basically. And it's amazing. I guess he's on a really big contract, and I guess no one wants to fulfill that. Even in Italy, where they have tax advantage.
I mean, that was another mad contract. But it's just, it gets to a point where we know we're trying to build a team. Matic isn't going to be part of that. If Beak isn't going to be part of that, then that's fine too, but get rid of him and spend the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or play him, if you think he's got something, then play him to see and give him some games instead of Matic, because this team could not be doing any worse than they are. They played well once this season, really. One night against Leeds, who are a team who totally play into their hands.
Yep.
They played some good stuff against Arsenal, some good stuff in the Champions League when they were chasing it, but they haven't played well. So you know that no version of this works. And I don't get why you're not trying to find the thing that does, because it's not going to be worse. If you played Beak instead of Matic, every time you attempted to play Matic, you played Beak, the results would not be worse.
Yeah, and then the thing that always surprises me at this club, and shouldn't surprise me, is that the calculation won't be, we need to fix this in the window and we'll throw some money at it, because it's going to cost United 50 to 70 million to be out of the Champions League next season, and even more if they're at it for 2 seasons. And toss a coin, United are in the Champions League 1 season out of 2, basically, since Fergie left. And the calculation, it's mad, because it will cost them a whole bunch in the value of the asset, which I guess they don't care about if they're not selling it, and a whole bunch in terms of revenues, which maybe they don't care about because they take the dividend anyway.
But it's strange also, because I understand why they might be loath to give Rangnick money if he's not going to be around, but that's why you have Fletcher and Murta. And I cannot believe that they can't find a midfield player who they think is really good and worth having for the money that they would have to spend on one, even if they didn't.
Well, they haven't got the autonomy over the budget, Fletcher and Murta, yet.
No. But what I'm saying is that it's not like back in the day where you might, because one of the problems United have had is that you go from the way Fergie to Moyes to Van Gaal to Mourinho to Ole, all different ways of playing football, none of them like the players that they've been bequeathed.
Yeah.
So you get Fletcher and Murta, in theory, one of the things they're meant to stop is that happening, because there's meant to be, you want to play a particular kind of way with particular kinds of players, so that recruitment continues. And it seems odd that, I mean, there are lots of players you hear being talked about. Like the one that there's been the most chat about is Dennis Zakaria. I've seen him a couple of times. Looks a good player. I'm told that he can play. He's available for nothing. Now, it might not be him. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm sitting here watching him play in the Bundesliga every week. I'm not. But what I'm saying is that there is a player who is worth having and who would fill a spot in the first 11 who you could get for not a lot of money.
Yeah, no, he's all right. I've seen him a few times as well. I think his numbers kind of show him not to be at the total elite level in terms of his contributions to the defensive side of the game. But for right now, he might be a marginal improvement.
It doesn't have to be him. You should. Like, the point of having all this data and this permanent staff is that, like, you find the person that it is. And when people sometimes say, "Well, who should it be?" Then it's not my job to know that. There are people who perform a very specialised job that is that, and they should be able to come up with someone, and I'm sure that they can. But then the lack of will to change it is really strange, because it seems the amount of money. If United went and signed 2 midfield players for 50 million quid, they would make this winter. They would make the top 4.
They would. They would, because of the weaknesses of the other teams competing for that place. And the fact that they're probably not going to do that is negligent and short-termist. And like, worst of all, we might end up in the bloody Europa League. I don't want to be...
Or worse.
I don't want to, or even worse, the conference.
Or worse, yeah.
I mean, United playing some Kazakhstani side on a Thursday night and then going away to City on the Sunday or whatever, it's not good for the club. Some fans are like, great away day. Yes, I'm happy with that.
If my life currently allowed me to do more Euro aways, in some ways I'd mind it less, because you get to go to some new places. I'm hoping that will change actually next season, but at the same time, there's something depressing about the football, the actual football itself. And it's not obviously not all about the football, but there is the Europa League group stages that we've sat through. It's been some of the worst shit that has ever been seen.
Awful. It's the standard's really poor. It doesn't look like United players are up for it either.
It's one of the most infuriating things about this season is because we were at that point last season where we were sort of beat anyone on their day kind of team, and we were.
Yep.
I was actually like quite interested to see what happened in the Champions League this season, and now we're so far away from a good performance that improving enough to be even Atletico, who are crap, sounds like a monumental reach. And I know things can change very quickly, so I'm not ruling it out, but it comes back to me to settling on some level of continuity. We've got Pogba to come back into the mix of all of this at some point, but settling on a way of playing that, in my opinion, has to be 4-2-3-1. That's not really like who comprises it. The front three, I can make arguments for all of them. Don't know what the correct answer is. The midfield three is McFred and Bruno. I don't really see that there's another option out there.
And then what you're pointing to, and the system and the players, if they can get that into play more often than not, is should be good enough for a top 4. Add an extra midfielder into the mix, and
you don't want to sign players to go in front of young players. So in a way, I'm pleased that they got Ronaldo and Cavani, because it's giving space to Greenwood and Elanga to develop, and then in 2 years, neither of those two are going to be around. So there's that. And if they think Hannibal's going to be good enough next year or the year after, you don't necessarily want to sign 2 players to go in front of him. One is essential, but then that's fine. But then you need to start integrating him. If you look like Klopp's doing it, Klopp started including Harvey Elliott this season because he's good, and it is much easier to do it in a good team. But I also think that I've seen quite a lot of Arsenal in the Europa League for work over the last season, and particularly the season before last. And I could see that Saka was a player, and I'd heard that Smith Rowe was a player, and I knew he was doing really well on loan. And I felt like Arteta went to those lads when he basically had no other options, and they were ready.
Right.
He was going to they lost all those games in a row, and he was going to get fired. So okay. And although he would rather bring young players into a team that's winning, he went to them because he was desperate, and they were good enough. And his problem now is the senior players just aren't as good as they are.
Arteta had this need, and Arsenal had this need to transform an old side on these really heavy contracts into a much younger side. They had a financial incentive to do it, and they had a playing incentive to do it. And it looks like Edu, the sporting director, and Arteta were all on the same page with the transformation at Arsenal. At United, that's not obvious. It's not obvious that Fletcher and Murtaugh, Rangnick, and Woodward, and now Arnold and the Glazers are all on the same page with the direction of what the club is talking about. And I had this debate on and off with the former host of this podcast about what's more important. Like if you inserted Pep or Klopp into this club right now, just as a thought experiment, would that be more impactful than just getting the right structure and the right coaches around it? What's the balance between having a brilliant coach and the right system?
So I would say, so Klopp, if you look at if you gave any other manager, if you gave Guardiola the Klopp squad, Liverpool wouldn't have won the league or the Champions League.
Right.
Like what you're seeing in that, Klopp has taken good players and he's inspired them to perform like absolute world beaters for a much longer period of time than lightly.
Look at Liverpool's midfield. Like on paper, you're like, huh?
Look what he was getting out of Jordan Henderson and Wijnaldum, who were good players, but they played like world beaters. The amount of I can't remember what the numbers are, but the season they won the league and they went on that ludicrous winning run, they won a ridiculous number of games by one goal. That's not sustainable, but it's the manager gives them the confidence and the belief to think that they can do that. And he has that personality. And United went for him before they went for Van Gaal, and he turned them down. He happened to be around when Liverpool wanted them. But I know that it's very easy to take piss out of Klopp, but Guardiola needs a much more particular kind of thing. But the kind of personality, I particularly want to watch Guardiola football, like nice shapes and stuff like that. But Klopp plays the kind of football that we're used to watching at United. And don't enjoy saying this, but he was the right guy to get that United job.
And Woodward shit the bed on that one, basically. And Klopp had one conversation with Woodward and said, no, thanks.
But they didn't sell United. Like if Darren Fletcher had been involved, then it's maybe a different thing because you've got someone selling United who actually knows what the selling points of United are.
Yes.
And Klopp obviously
not the adult Disneyland or whatever it was described as.
He took one look at it and thought no, and now look. And Guardiola is ultimately, obviously he's a football genius. I would like it not to be the case, but here we are. But he's always had the best players in every team that he's ever managed. And his thing, we were talking about before, his thing is extracting the very most out of top level talent. He's amazing at that thing. But he's always had the top level talent. And Klopp is extracting ridiculous levels of performance out of not top level talent.
Yes.
And
Agree.
I think the thing, and what Guardiola also has is his biggest advantage. I mean, obviously it's a factor of the money, but it's the size of the squad. You can buy as many players as you like and it doesn't matter. And they've got so many players of sort of 40 to 70 million pound quality. Obviously you have to pick the right ones and that requires structure and everyone thinking the same thing. But also if you sign Leos of this world and your Jack Grealishes of this world and it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Because you've got such margin for error, whereas Klopp succeeded at Liverpool because they nailed about 3 years of signings in a row, almost all of them. And that's not just him, obviously, but he then made them work. And you always felt with United that Ole, usually like 50% on transfers is a good record. Ole was going to have to nail them all as well. And he didn't.
Didn't quite, And
he didn't.
Yeah, no. I mean, continue going, to come back to Villa. And what did they get? 120 odd million for them. And they spent it on Alisson and Van Dijk, who are completely transformational.
That made the difference. And exactly. That's the other thing. Like you ultimately you get the right players. And that's obviously partly to do with Klopp. But I mean, Alisson, there's something about Alisson that I still find a little bit uncomfortable. And it's not just the fact that he votes for Bolsonaro and Liverpool and the most left-wing support in the world seem to have a blind spot where that's concerned. And not just him either. Fabinho.
Well, all football fans do that.
Fabinho as well. Right, but not all football fans are proclaiming themselves to be like the darling of the left wing. Forgetting that Liverpool also hasn't always been a Labour city. But anyway, Alisson's one of those goalkeepers that just things seem to hit him. That's where I'm getting to. Casillas was another one that he was. I mean, honestly, it seems to me more like a Van der Sar keeper. That he doesn't make that many terrible mistakes, and he has that other thing of things seeming to hit him or go straight at him, like Ludek Mikoszko against West Ham style.
Oh God, don't. I even want to. Don't. I don't. One of my worst experiences at football was United drawing that game at Upton Park in '92 and being caged because at Upton Park those days they locked you in for a long time after the game. So the various firms didn't kick off afterwards, which they like to do around those parts. Yeah, so we spent about 2 hours in that cage after that game, knowing that United had just fucked the league title. But anyway, back to the early '90s football, which is a regular theme when you're of a certain age. Yeah. Anyway, I guess that was Villa. Like notable stories this week. There weren't that many really. There's not a lot of transfer talk, but there was Ronaldo's interview. What did you make of that? He was very politically correct in what he was saying. He was basically saying that no one's listening to him and the players need to get better and it's not as good as he thought it was going to be, I think.
I mean, I actually honestly, I was on holiday in Ghana and I didn't do it to myself. I thought, do I need to watch 20 minutes of this bloke tell me stuff that I already know? I mean, I'm sort of pleased if he's giving tongue lashings to the other players, but I felt like I wanted a break from that kind of ordeal.
I don't blame you. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about wanting to engage with Ronaldo and his content.
When we turned up to the airport to get our flight home, I did say to my wife, but Ronaldo scored 47 goals across all competitions. But no, I did not really. I would absolutely not try that.
Hey, wife, he may be a rapist, but look at the goals.
Oh, man.
Yeah, anyway, I mean, look, I don't mind him calling people out.
100%.
I think perhaps he needs to look in the metaphorical mirror, and his performances have been in and out this season.
I don't think he needs any encouragement to look in the mirror. Metaphorical otherwise.
Yeah, I still always go back to that, one of the first documentaries with him, and it goes inside his house and every single wall is a mirror. It was like a nightclub. It's bizarre. But anyway, he kind of called people out, and I don't mind that. There may be, of course, there's cliques in the dressing room, the Ronaldos and the non-Ronaldo camps, the first being much larger than the latter, I guess. But he needs someone to, but he also needs performances after that.
Steve Archibald said, what did he say? He said, team spirit is an illusion glimpsed in the aftermath of victory.
It's great when you're winning and there isn't any when you're losing.
Yeah, you get pissed off when you win and you're happy when you lose and you're happy when you win. And generally, I mean, we don't know what's going on with the players, but it doesn't feel like the problem is the camaraderie. It feels like the problem is the inability to do things like focus and work hard and really exceedingly basic endeavours like passing the ball 5 yards or tracking a marker. I don't believe that when Maguire is failing to track a marker, he's thinking, man, that Ronaldo's such a bellend. I don't think that's happening.
No, I don't think that's true either. I think that's a basic failing Maguire. God, I'm glad we don't have to talk about him because he does my nut in for a £80 million player to be that average. Aggressively average.
I mean, he's been not bad for United, but not
bad. But
it was a man. Like he wasn't the player. And he never was the player. But Ole sort of. He didn't even have to be Van Dijk. He could have been like a stopper centre back. Like his passing into midfield is helpful, but he's not solid enough. Like there are games that you would expect to win because you've got. If your centre back is this leader who is winning second balls and winning headers in the box and stuff, and he doesn't really do that. He's not commanding. No. And if you're not commanding and you've got no pace, then there's a problem.
It's a recipe for failure.
Yeah.
How will you do against Brentford on Wednesday night? I think it is. It's a rearranged game from the one that was called off for United having a whole bunch of COVID cases. Brentford got absolutely smashed by Liverpool today. Didn't have a sniff. I think Liverpool had 27 shots in this one and all of the ball all of the time, and which is unusual for Brentford because they press from the front really well. But I kind of suspect a lot of teams have worked that out with them. It's just they have the system that United struggle against all the time.
I mean, you know what you're going to get with United. They're going to play badly and they may win, lose or draw. So you know where the performance is going to be. Roughly.
Yep.
But you don't know what the result's going to be because actually they've been getting more points than the performances have deserved.
Yes.
And under Ole, they never really played as badly as this, as consistently as this until the end.
Yeah.
And even at the end, in that Liverpool game where they got gubbed, they still made like 3 or 4 proper chances with some nice football, and they're not really. And then even in the Watford game, and they're not really doing that here.
They're not creating chances. I wonder, look, there definitely is this kind of soft underbelly to Brentford defensively, and they play the 3 at the back. So if United can get players wide, then there's an opportunity there to create chances. I just worry that Mbeumo and Tony will cause all sorts of problems. If they press from the front, it's high energy, it's intensity, it's all the things that United don't have and always struggle against. It's like if you want to write a recipe for a type of team that's going to cause United problems, it's Brentford. I just don't know that they're playing very well at the moment, Brentford, and maybe there's the opportunity there.
It's just at this point, what I want to see is some kind of continuity where you can see where the team's trying to get to. And Rangnick's had his time now he's seen all the players. He's had a few weeks with them, and I just feel that the only way it's going to get better now is by repeating. And sometimes it's like, even if, as I said, I don't think he's got a lot of room for manoeuvre in midfield. And up front, I don't know what the right 3 is. Really don't know who the right 3 are. But he just has to pick. There are a lot of good players, so pick a 3 and let them play together, and bring on players if you need to change something. But I presume it's going to be Ronaldo, Greenwood, and then either Sancho or Elanga.
That sounds likely, I think. I mean, Ronaldo's back in the team if he had this hip flexor problem, which can take a couple of weeks. But I imagine if he's fit, he's going to be back in. And then the other question is, at the back, does Maguire come back in for Lindelof? Probably. It's not going to make much difference.
I mean, I'd say that Maguire probably has a slightly higher ceiling than Lindelof. So I would probably, Lindelof hits nice long passes, but I believe the numbers show that Maguire's ability in that area, contribution in that area, is much more significant.
Yes.
And so
yes, yeah, and Fred comes back into the side. McTominay comes back into the side because he had a 1-match suspension, and probably Shaw too.
Yeah, something like that. But it's just sticking with that. It's sticking with that front 3. And there's something about Elanga. I mean, I think what we know about Elanga is that, or just to watch him, he looks like he's got the agility of a winger and some of the knack of a centre forward, and that's a good. And the fact that they're picking him with the options that they have, I imagine he's absolutely killing it in training. Because we haven't seen enough.
I'm sure he's hungry as well.
Right, because we haven't seen enough on the pitch to say, well, he hasn't snatched the shirt from someone. He's done some good stuff, but he's not come on, been electrifying. So the reason he's in the team is partly because the others are rubbish, but also because I think we can be pretty sure that he's absolutely killing it in training, and the managers immediately thought, I like this guy, and all they loved him as well. And so I'd be happy to see more of him, because, as you say, he's not going to half-arse it either. And what you're seeing, and I think that if Greenwood's on the other side, if he plays Greenwood, then Greenwood's another one who you could see the dangers with Greenwood, that he's been the best player in his age group and in the country at every level. And every time he stepped up a level, he's thought, I'm pissing this. And it's happened even when he's gone into the Premier League, and he's thought, look at this. And it's all been easy for him. And I'm sure he's sacrificed loads as well, and he's worked hard on all the stuff, but relative to what it is for other footballers, it's been easy for him. And he's probably not spent very much time of his life thinking, am I going to make it as a professional footballer? And that's quite rare.
Yeah.
That's quite rare. Most of David Beckham had time when he's on loan thinking, am I going to make it? Paul Scholes, players of that level of quality are thinking, am I going to make it? Ryan Giggs maybe not, but it's that level of player. Phil Foden's another one, always going to make it. But if you don't have the natural desire to go with that, and I don't mean he's lazy necessarily, but some people are mongrels and some people aren't, and you can learn it, but you can see that he's not putting in the kind of effort that equivalent players are putting in terms of running. And if they can get that out of him, and they will have to get that out of him and do it quickly, then obviously he could be one of the best players in the world. But he's going to need someone needs to make him do it because he's not doing
I
it.
think that's right. And it may have been part of what Ronaldo was calling out this week. And him and Rashford, and I think probably Greenwood, ceilings higher. But the both of them, Rangnick or Rangnick or whoever comes in next, and whoever that is, has to, and very quickly, get something out of this, because we've seen plenty of careers of talented players drift. And like his interesting background, his dad was a Cameroon international and played in the World Cup. But he's playing for the Sweden age group teams. And there is something about him. Don't know if he's going to be good enough yet. He's very one-footed and always wants to come inside, so he's going to have to develop a little more to that if he's going to play on that left side. It's not necessarily that he has to, because he can play across all the three. Anyway, nice having you on to Deconstruct United. I feel like this show has been that for 10 years, Deconstructing United, because there's been very little of that time when United have actually been good.
There are still some good players there.
There are still some good players. And maybe we'll pick up enough to make the Europa League.
Oh, let's say amen.
I guess we'll be back after Brentford and then West Ham at the weekend, I think it is. Hopefully West Ham and Brentford go ahead. And hopefully United get some performances.
Oh, see ya.
No question about that. It's supported by you, our listeners, through patreon.com/NQAT pod, where you can get access to our weekly ad-free bonus episode talking about football around the Premier League and Europe.